The boardroom of Carter Innovations smelled like polished wood and expensive cologne, the kind of scent that screamed money and power. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a postcard view of San Francisco Bay, golden sunlight glinting off the water, the Bay Bridge stretching like a steel promise into the haze. Ethan Carter stood at the head of the long mahogany table, his tailored gray suit clinging to his broad shoulders, a faint sheen of sweat on his brow. At 35, he was the youngest CEO in the company's history, a tech billionaire with a net worth clocking in at $9.4 billion. But right now, he didn't feel like a king of Silicon Valley. He felt like a man about to jump off a cliff. The room buzzed with tension. 15 board members, gray-haired men in pinstripes and women with sharp eyes and sharper tongues, stared at him, their faces a mix of shock, anger, and disbelief. His mother, Margaret Carter, sat at the far end, her silver hair pulled into a tight chignon, her lips pressed into a thin, disapproving line. She'd built this empire alongside his late father, and she wasn't about to let her only son torch it. Ethan gripped the edge of the podium, his knuckles whitening, and took a deep breath. "Effective immediately," he said, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. "Carter Innovations will redirect 30% of its annual profits to community development projects across the country. We're starting with Bright Futures, a nonprofit run by Olivia Brooks. It's time we gave back, really gave back, not just wrote checks for tax breaks." The silence that followed was deafening, the kind that sucks the air out of a room. Then chaos erupted. "Are you out of your damn mind, Ethan?" Margaret's voice cut through the noise like a blade. She slammed her palm on the table, her emerald ring flashing under the fluorescent lights. "This isn't a charity, it's a business. Your father didn't bust his ass for 40 years so you could play philanthropist with his legacy." Ethan met her gaze, his jaw tightening. "No, Mom, I'm not crazy. I'm finally awake. I've spent my whole life chasing the Carter name, and I'm done. I want to live for something real." A balding board member in a navy suit, Ted Grayson, a fossil from his dad's era, shot to his feet, jabbing a finger at Ethan. "You're throwing away everything your father built. 30%? That's billions, kid. The shareholders will have your head." Ethan forced a bitter smile. "Legacy isn't just about money, Ted. It's about what we leave behind. And I'm tired of leaving nothing but zeros in a bank account." Murmurs rippled through the room, some furious, some confused. His CFO, Nate Sullivan, a lanky guy with wire-rimmed glasses who'd been Ethan's best friend since Stanford, leaned forward, his voice low but urgent. "Ethan, man, think this through. The grants are watching. This merger's still shaky. You pull a stunt like this, they'll walk." The grants, the New York dynasty behind Grant Enterprises, the key to a merger that had boosted Carter Innovations stock by 40%. Sophia Grant, their golden daughter, had been circling Ethan for months, her intentions as clear as the diamond studs in her ears. Ethan's stomach twisted. He knew what Nate meant. Stick to the plan, play the game, keep the old money families happy. But he was done playing. "I don't care about the grants," Ethan said, louder than he intended. "I don't care about the stock price or the headlines. I care about doing something that matters, and if you don't get that, maybe you shouldn't be here." He turned and walked out, the sound of his polished loafers echoing on the hardwood floor. Behind him, the room exploded into shouts. Margaret barking orders, Ted cursing, Nate calling after him. Ethan didn't look back. He pushed through the glass doors, past his assistant who stammered a half-formed question, and into the elevator. The doors slid shut, and for the first time in months, he could breathe. The ride down 42 floors felt like a descent into a new life, or maybe a free fall into nothing. His phone buzzed in his pocket, but he ignored it. He knew what was coming. Calls from PR, texts from Nate begging him to reconsider, maybe even a furious voicemail from Sophia. None of it mattered. Not anymore. When he stepped into the lobby, the late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, painting the marble floor in shades of gold. He loosened his tie, letting it hang like a noose he'd finally escaped, and pulled out his phone. Not to check messages, but to open Instagram. His thumb hovered over the search bar, then typed her name, Olivia Brooks. Her latest post loaded, and there it was, a gut punch he couldn't dodge. Olivia, radiant in a simple white sweater, smiling brighter than he'd ever seen, holding up her left hand. A modest ring sparkled on her finger, catching the light. The caption read, "Said yes to forever with my best friend. Here's to love and new beginnings." The guy next to her, Liam, he'd later learn, had his arm around her, grinning like he'd won the lottery. Comments poured in. "Congrats, Liv. You deserve this. Beautiful couple." Ethan's chest tightened, a dull ache spreading like wildfire. That smile, those dimples he'd memorized, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners, used to be his. He'd had her, held her, laughed with her over cheap coffee and late-night takeout. And he'd thrown it all away in one stupid, cowardly moment. The gala, the red dress, the words he could never take back. She's not one of us. He shoved the phone back in his pocket and stepped outside. The San Francisco air hit him, cool, salty, alive with the hum of traffic and seagulls. He walked to the edge of the Embarcadero, the bay stretching out before him, endless and unforgiving. A ferry horn blared in the distance, and for a second he imagined jumping on one, disappearing to some nowhere town where no one knew the name Carter. But running wasn't the answer. Not this time. Olivia was gone, engaged, happy, moving on with a guy who'd never hurt her the way Ethan had. He couldn't undo that. But he could fix himself. That boardroom stunt wasn't just a middle finger to his mom or the suits. It was a promise. To her, to himself, to the man he wanted to be. He'd lost the only person who'd ever seen past his money, his name, his bullshit. And now, with her wedding looming like a deadline he couldn't outrun, he had one last shot to prove he wasn't the asshole she'd walked away from. Ethan leaned against the railing, the cold metal biting into his palms. The city glittered behind him. Tech towers and startup dreams, a world he'd conquered but never owned. He thought of Olivia's voice, sharp and warm all at once, cutting through his defenses that first night in Chicago. "You think money buys everything, don't you?" She'd been right. It didn't buy her. It didn't buy happiness. And it sure as hell didn't buy a spine. "I screwed up, Liv," he muttered to the wind, his words swallowed by the crash of waves below. "But I'm not done yet." He straightened up, brushing a hand through his dark hair, still damp with sweat from the showdown upstairs. The board could fight him. His mom could disown him. The Grants could pull the merger. None of it changed what he knew now. Billions meant jack shit if you didn't have someone to share them with, someone who saw you, not the zeros in your bank account. Olivia had seen him, and he'd let her go. This wasn't about winning her back. Liam had that locked down, and Ethan wasn't delusional enough to think otherwise. This was about proving she'd mattered, that she'd changed him, that somewhere under the suits and the private jets, there was a guy worth a damn. He turned back toward the tower, its glass facade reflecting the fading sun. Step 1. Survive the fallout of that meeting. Step 2. Figure out how to make good on that 30% promise without the company imploding. Step 3. Find Olivia, not to beg, but to say the sorry he owed her. Face to face, no screens, no excuses. "Hey," he said to no one, a half smile tugging at his lips. "You wanted me to do better, Liv. Watch me." Hey folks, that's just the start of my story. A guy with everything who realized he had nothing that mattered. Ever been at a crossroads where you had to choose between what's easy and what's right? Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's next. Drop a comment. Tell me what you'd do if you were me. Stick around, because this ride's only getting started. 18 months earlier, Ethan Carter wasn't standing on the edge of a personal reckoning. He was just another billionaire in a tux, sipping overpriced champagne at a charity gala in Chicago, the kind of event where the rich pretended to care about the poor for a night. The ballroom at the Palmer House Hilton glittered like a damn chandelier factory. Crystal dripping from the ceiling, gold trim on every surface, and a sea of designer gowns that cost more than most people's rent. Ethan leaned against a pillar, swirling his drink, half listening to some tech bro drone on about blockchain. He was 33 then, riding high as CEO of Carter Innovations, his life a blur of board meetings, private jets, and women who chased his wallet more than his smile. The crowd parted, and that's when he saw her. She wasn't loud or flashy, not like the peacocks strutting around with their Birkin bags and Botox grins. She stood near the auction table, her voice cutting through the hum of small talk like a bell. $50,000 for clean water projects in Appalachia, she called, her tone firm, no hesitation. Ethan's head snapped up. He'd just bid 40 grand on that lot, some half-assed attempt to look generous. And now this woman, whoever she was, had swooped in and stolen it out from under him. He squinted, taking her in. She wore a simple teal dress, not tight or showy, but it hugged her curves in a way that made his pulse kick up a notch. Her curly hair was swept into a high bun, a few strands falling loose around her neck, and her brown skin glowed under the warm lights. No diamonds, no pearls, just a thin silver necklace and a confidence that didn't need props. She wasn't trying to impress anyone, and that's exactly what hooked him. "Who's that?" Ethan muttered to Nate, who'd materialized beside him with a plate of shrimp cocktail. Nate glanced over, chewing thoughtfully. "Olivia Brooks. Runs some nonprofit, Bright Futures, I think. She's big on community stuff, water wells, youth programs, that kind of thing. Not our usual crowd." Ethan smirked. "She just outbid me. I'm intrigued." Nate snorted. "Good luck, man. She's not the type to swoon over your Amex black card." The auctioneer moved on to the next item, a yacht weekend in the Bahamas, and Ethan ditched his glass on a passing tray. He weaved through the crowd, dodging a drunk heiress who tried to grab his arm, until he reached the open bar. Olivia was there, leaning against the counter, sipping a ginger ale like she didn't trust the free booze. Up close, she was even more striking. High cheekbones, full lips, and eyes that sparkled with something sharp, like she could see right through him. "You stole my project," Ethan said, sliding up beside her, his tone light but edged with curiosity. She turned, sizing him up with a slow once-over that made him feel oddly exposed. "Didn't see your name on it, Ethan Carter," she shot back, her voice smooth, but with a bite. A faint smirk tugged at her lips. He raised an eyebrow, leaning on the bar. "You know who I am?" "Yeah," she said, unfazed. "You're the Silicon Valley hotshot who thinks money buys everything. I'm Olivia, and I'm here to prove you wrong." Ethan laughed, a real laugh, not the fake chuckle he used to charm investors. "Bold. I like that. So, what's your deal? You crash galas to outbid billionaires for fun?" Olivia set her glass down, crossing her arms. "No, I crash galas to fund clean water for people who don't have it. Your bid was cute, but I've got kids in West Virginia drinking from rusty pipes. 50 grand's a start." "Cute?" Ethan echoed, mock-offended. "That's a first. Most people kiss my ass when I throw money around." "I'm not most people," she said, her eyes locking with his. "And if Carter Innovations cared half as much as you pretend to, those kids wouldn't need me stepping in." The jab hit harder than he expected. He straightened, his playful grin fading. "You don't pull punches, do you?" "Not when it matters," she replied. Your company rakes in billions, self-driving cars, AI, all that shiny tech. But what's it doing for the people who can't afford it? You tell me. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. She wasn't wrong. Carter Innovations was a machine, sleek, efficient, profitable as hell, but it didn't exactly bleed heart. He'd never thought about it much. His dad had built the company to dominate, not to save the world. And Ethan? He'd just kept the engine running. You're tough, he said finally, scratching the back of his neck. I respect that. Good, Olivia said, picking up her drink again. Respect's a start. Now, if you'll excuse me. Wait. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. What if I matched your bid? 50 grand from me, too, for your Appalachia project. She tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle she hadn't figured out yet. Why? Because you're right, he admitted, surprising himself. And because I want to see what you do with it. Olivia's smirk softened into something warmer. Not quite a smile, but close. Okay, Carter, I'll bite. But don't make promises you won't keep. I don't have time for games. I don't break promises, he said, holding her gaze. You've got my word. She nodded, pulling a business card from her clutch and sliding it across the bar. Here's my number. For the donation, obviously. Don't get any ideas. Obviously, Ethan echoed, pocketing the card with a grin. Wouldn't dream of it. She rolled her eyes. But there was a flicker of amusement there, a spark that lit something deep in his chest. She turned to go, her dress swaying slightly as she moved, and Ethan watched her disappear into the crowd. The gala noise rushed back, clinking glasses, fake laughter, the auctioneer's drone, but it all felt muted, like the world had shifted a little off its axis. Dude, you're toast, Nate said, sidling up with a fresh drink. She's got you on the ropes already. Shut up, Ethan muttered, but he couldn't wipe the stupid grin off his face. He pulled out the card, Olivia Brooks, Bright Futures, and ran his thumb over the embossed letters. Nate was right. He was in trouble, the good kind, and he didn't even know it yet. Back at his hotel that night, Ethan sprawled on the king-sized bed, staring at the ceiling. Chicago's skyline glowed through the window. Lake Michigan, a dark mirror, the Willis Tower piercing the night. He should have been prepping for tomorrow's investor pitch, but his mind kept drifting to her. Olivia Brooks. No bullshit, no flattery, just fire and purpose. He'd met 100 women who'd bat their lashes and name-drop his Forbes cover, but she'd called him out in 10 seconds flat, and he liked it. He grabbed his phone, typed her number, and hesitated. Too soon, too eager. Screw it. He hit call. It rang twice before she picked up. This better be about that 50 grand, Carter, she said, her voice crackling through the line, teasing but firm. It is, he lied, sitting up. Just making sure you're serious about cashing it. Oh, I'm serious, she said. Check your email tomorrow. You're about to fund a water pump that's going to change lives. Don't flake on me. Wouldn't dare, he said, leaning back against the headboard. So tell me about it. This project. What's the plan? There was a pause, like she was deciding whether to humor him. Then she launched in, talking about rural towns forgotten by the government, kids with stomach aches from contaminated wells, the logistics of drilling in rocky soil. Her voice lit up, passionate and precise, and Ethan found himself hanging on every word. He didn't know jack about water pumps, but he knew he could listen to her talk all night. Sounds like you're the real deal, he said when she finished. Damn right I am, she shot back. Question is, are you? He chuckled. Guess we'll find out. Night, Olivia. Night, Ethan, she said, and the line went dead. 3 months after that Chicago gala, Ethan Carter's life didn't feel like his own anymore, and he didn't mind one bit. Olivia Brooks had slipped into it like a song you can't stop humming, turning his polished, predictable world upside down. They'd started with business meetups, coffee at hole-in-the-wall spots in San Francisco's Mission District, quick chats about her nonprofit over burritos from a food truck. But somewhere between the lattes and late-night texts, the lines blurred. Professional turned personal, and Ethan wasn't fighting it. It was a foggy Tuesday evening when things shifted for good. They'd wrapped up a meeting at Bright Future's tiny office, a cramped space above a taqueria, walls plastered with maps and thank you notes from kids in Appalachia. Olivia had been showing him the latest numbers. 3 new wells funded, thanks to his $50,000 and a matching grant she'd hustled for. She glowed when she talked about it, her hands flying as she pointed at spreadsheets, her voice buzzing with that fire he'd fallen for back in Chicago. "See this?" she said, tapping a photo of a little girl in a faded pink dress, grinning next to a shiny new pump. "That's why I do this. She doesn't have to walk 2 miles for clean water anymore." Ethan leaned over her shoulder, close enough to catch the faint scent of her coconut shampoo. "You're a badass, you know that?" She laughed, nudging him away. "Flattery won't get you anywhere, Carter. I've got work to do." But the sky had other plans. As they stepped outside, the fog thickened into a drizzle, then a full-on downpour. San Francisco rain didn't mess around. It came fast and cold, soaking them before they could make it to Ethan's car half a block away. "Shit!" Olivia yelped, pulling her jacket over her head as they bolted, splashing through puddles. Ethan grabbed her hand, tugging her under an awning, both of them dripping and laughing like idiots. "Guess we're stuck," he said, shaking water from his hair. His white button-down clung to his chest, and he caught her glancing at it before she looked away, cheeks flushing. "My place is closer," she said, brushing wet curls from her face. "Come on. You'll catch pneumonia in that fancy shirt." 10 minutes later, they stumbled into her apartment. A cozy 1-bedroom in Noe Valley, all mismatched furniture and warm light. The walls were lined with bookshelves. A beat-up guitar leaned in one corner, and a photo of her family sat on the mantel. Olivia, younger, sandwiched between 2 smiling parents in an Ohio backyard. She tossed him a towel from the bathroom, then disappeared to change. Ethan rubbed his hair dry, trying not to stare when she came back in a loose t-shirt and leggings, her damp curls falling free. The shirt slipped off one shoulder and he swallowed hard, focusing on the towel like it was a lifeline. "Want tea?" she asked, padding to the kitchen. "I'm not letting you drip all over my couch." "Tea's good," he said, his voice rougher than he meant it to be. He followed her, leaning against the counter as she filled a kettle. The air felt charged, like static before a storm. She reached for mugs, and he stepped closer, too close, brushing her arm as he grabbed one for her. She froze, her breath hitching, and for a second, neither of them moved. Her skin was warm under his fingers, and he could have sworn she leaned into it before pulling back. "Don't complicate things, Ethan," she said softly, not meeting his eyes. "Too late for that," he murmured, stepping away with a sheepish grin. "Sorry, got carried away." She shook her head, a small smile breaking through. "Your trouble, you know that?" "Only the good kind," he shot back, and she laughed, the tension easing but not disappearing. They ended up on her couch, mugs steaming, rain drumming against the windows. She curled her legs under her, looking at him like she was trying to figure him out. "So what's your story, Carter? You don't strike me as the tea on a rainy night type." He took a sip, buying time. "Not much to tell. Grew up in Pacific Heights, private schools, Stanford. Dad built the company, died 5 years ago. Mom expects me to keep it going. That's the script." "And you're good with that?" She pressed, her gaze sharp. He hesitated, staring into his tea. "I don't know. Sometimes I think I'm just coasting. Dad was larger than life, built Carter Innovations from nothing. I'm scared I'll never measure up. That penthouse I live in feels like a museum half the time, empty as hell. Olivia's eyes softened. Poor little rich boy, she teased, but there was no bite in it. She reached over, squeezing his hand. You're more than your last name, Ethan. You just gotta figure out what that means. He turned his hand over, lacing his fingers with hers. You make it sound easy. It's not, she said, pulling back but not fast enough to hide the spark in her eyes. I grew up in Columbus, middle class, nothing fancy. Worked 3 jobs to get through college, started bright futures with my savings. Every dime I've got is mine. That's how I know who I am. See? He said, leaning forward. Badass. She smirked, but the moment lingered, heavy and sweet. They talked for hours, about her first job at a diner, his awkward high school years, the time she got arrested protesting a factory shutdown. The rain slowed, but neither of them noticed. When he finally left, the air between them hummed with something unspoken, something real. That night, back in his penthouse, Ethan's phone buzzed. Olivia's name lit up the screen. Had fun today. You're not as bad as the tabloids say. He grinned, typing back, high praise. Night live. He fell asleep with her words looping in his head, the city lights outside his window feeling less lonely than usual. But the high didn't last. The next Sunday, over brunch at his mom's mansion in Pacific Heights, the cracks started showing. Margaret Carter sat across from him at a table groaning with eggs, Benedict, and fresh-squeezed orange juice, her silk blouse pristine, her voice ice-cold. I hear you've been spending time with that Brooks woman, she said, cutting into her food with surgical precision. The board's noticed, Ethan. So have I. He set his fork down, stomach sinking. Her name's Olivia, Mom. And yeah, we're friends. She's doing good work. Friends? Margaret interrupted, her green eyes narrowing. Don't be naive. She's not our kind of people. You need someone who fits this world. Someone like Sophia Grant. Ethan's jaw tightened. Sophia's a business move, not a person. I'm not a chess piece you can slide into place. Margaret sipped her mimosa, unruffled. This isn't about feelings. It's about legacy. The Grants are old money, East Coast power. Their merger could double our reach. Your father would have seen that. Dad's gone, Ethan snapped, louder than he meant to. And I'm not him. Olivia's got her own money, her own life. She's not after anything. Not our kind of money, Margaret said coolly. You're a Carter. There are expectations, standards. Sophia's family is watching you. The board is, too. He pushed his plate away, appetite gone. I'm not marrying Sophia to seal a deal. That's medieval bullshit. Watch your tone, she said, her voice a whip. You're playing with fire, Ethan. Don't burn everything we've built for some charity girl. He stood, chair scraping the hardwood. I'll see you later, Mom. She didn't call after him as he stormed out, but her words stuck like burrs. That night, Nate cornered him at a bar in the Marina District. A dive with sticky floors and neon signs. Over cheap beer, his friend laid it out plain. The Grants are getting antsy, Nate said, peeling the label off his bottle. Sophia's dad saw pics of you and Olivia in the Chronicle, coffee runs, that dinner in Monterey. They're traditional as hell, man. They want you locked in with her, not some activist they've never heard of. Ethan rubbed his temples. I'm not dating Sophia. I'm not dating anyone. Doesn't matter what you call it, Nate said. Perception's everything. You invited Olivia to the gala next week, right? The big one? Yeah, Ethan said, staring at his beer. I want her there. Nate sighed. Then you better brace yourself. Your mom's right about one thing. This world doesn't bend for people like Olivia. You're walking a tightrope, dude. Ethan drained his glass, the bitter taste matching the knot in his gut. He didn't want to choose. Not between Olivia and his family, not between his heart and his name. But the rope was already fraying, and he didn't know how long he could balance. The annual Carter Innovations Gala was the Super Bowl of San Francisco's tech scene. A glitzy, over-the-top night where billionaires, venture capitalists, and politicians rubbed elbows under the glow of 1,000 LED lights. The venue, a sprawling glass-walled ballroom atop the Fairmont Hotel, overlooked the city like a throne. Fog curled around the skyline outside, but inside it was all heat and noise, clinking glasses, live jazz, and the low hum of power deals being brokered over caviar. Ethan Carter stood near the bar, a tumbler of bourbon in hand, his black tuxedo sharp enough to cut glass. He'd been dreading this night for weeks, ever since he'd impulsively invited Olivia Brooks to join him. It wasn't just a party, it was a proving ground. The Grant merger hung in the balance, a $12 billion deal that'd cement Carter Innovations as a global titan. Sophia Grant and her old money family were the key, and Ethan's mom, Margaret, had made it crystal clear. Tonight was about sealing the alliance, not screwing it up. But all Ethan could think about was Olivia, her laugh, her fire, the way she'd looked at him on that rainy couch 3 weeks ago. He wanted her here, not as a prop, but as someone who mattered. Big mistake. The crowd shifted, and there she was, stepping through the double doors like she owned the place. Olivia wore a deep red gown that hugged her frame, the fabric catching the light with every move. Her curls were pinned up, dotted with tiny crystal pins that sparkled like stars, and her lips matched the dress, bold, unapologetic. She didn't blend in with the sea of muted grays and blacks. She stood out, a flame in a room full of shadows. Ethan's breath caught, his grip tightening on the glass. She was stunning, and for a second he forgot the 100 pairs of eyes watching him. Damn, he muttered under his breath, setting the drink down. He started toward her, but Margaret intercepted him like a hawk swooping in. Ethan, she hissed, her voice low and lethal, her silver gown shimmering as she grabbed his arm. The Grants are here. Sophia's father is expecting an announcement tonight. Something big. This merger is your father's legacy. Do not let that girl ruin it. She's not that girl, Ethan said through gritted teeth, pulling free. Her name's Olivia, and I invited her. Margaret's eyes narrowed to slits. Then uninvite her. Sophia's your future, business and otherwise. Don't be a fool. Before he could argue, Olivia reached him, her smile bright but edged with nerves. This place is insane, she said, glancing around at the chandeliers and the waiters weaving through with trays of champagne. You sure I belong here? You belong anywhere you damn well please, Ethan said, his voice softening. He wanted to say more, how she looked, how she made this circus bearable. But a shadow fell over them. Sophia Grant glided up, her blonde hair swept into an elegant twist, her emerald dress clinging to her like a second skin. She was all polish and poise, the kind of woman who'd been bred for nights like this. She slipped her arm through Ethan's, her touch possessive, her smile tight. Jameson, there you are, she purred, using a nickname he hated. Daddy's been looking for you. Ethan stiffened, his eyes flicking to Olivia. Hey, Sophia, this is Olivia Brooks. She's, oh, your little charity friend? Sophia cut in, her tone dripping with honeyed venom. She tilted her head, sizing Olivia up like a cat eyeing a mouse. How sweet. What do you do, Olivia? Hand out flyers or something? Olivia's smile didn't waver, but her eyes hardened. I run Bright Futures, she said coolly. We bring clean water to people who need it. What do you do, Sophia? Besides cling to Ethan's arm. Sophia's laugh was sharp, a blade wrapped in silk. Oh, I like her. She's feisty. Too bad she's not really our crowd, right, Jameson? The air thickened, a dozen heads turning their way. Ethan felt the weight of it. Margaret's glare from across the room, Nate's warning nod from the bar, the Grant patriarch's bushy eyebrows rising as he watched from a VIP table, the merger, the legacy, the expectations. His pulse pounded in his ears, and every instinct screamed at him to fix this, to smooth it over, to play the part he'd been groomed for. She's just someone from one of our projects, he said, his voice cold, mechanical. Not really our kind. The words landed like a slap. Olivia's face didn't crumple, no tears, no drama, but the hurt flashed in her eyes, raw and deep, before she locked it away. She nodded once, slow and deliberate. You're right, she said, her voice steady but laced with steel. I'm not your kind. Thank God for that. She turned, her red dress flaring as she walked away, head high, every step a middle finger to the room. Ethan's chest caved in, a hollow ache spreading fast. He wanted to run after her, to grab her arm and yell that he didn't mean it, that he was an idiot. But Sophia's grip tightened, her nails digging into his sleeve. Don't, she whispered, her breath hot against his ear. Then, before he could react, she leaned in and kissed him, hard, public, a claim staked in front of everyone. The crowd erupted in murmurs, a few claps, the Grant patriarch raising his glass in approval. Ethan pulled back, dazed, tasting her lipstick and hating it. Olivia was already gone, the doors swinging shut behind her. Smile, darling, Sophia said, patting his cheek. You just made Daddy very happy. Ethan forced a grin, his face a mask, as Margaret swooped in with a triumphant nod. Well done, she said, handing him a fresh drink. The Grants are in. You've secured the future. The rest of the night blurred. Handshakes, toasts, flashes from photographers. The merger was a done deal, stock projections soaring, the board buzzing with relief. Ethan played along, nodding at the right times, laughing when he was supposed to. But every time he blinked, he saw Olivia's eyes, those damn eyes, cutting him deeper than any knife. He stumbled back to his penthouse at 2 a.m., the city silent below his floor-to-ceiling windows. His tux jacket hit the floor, his tie followed, and he collapsed onto the leather couch, phone in hand. He called her. No answer. Texted, Liv, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Sent. Blocked. He tried email, pouring out a rambling apology. I panicked. I'm an asshole. Please talk to me. But it bounced back. She'd cut him off, clean and final. Fuck! He shouted, hurling the phone across the room. It skidded under the coffee table, screen cracked, but still glowing. He grabbed a bottle of whiskey from the bar, poured a sloppy shot, and downed it, the burn doing nothing to dull the ache. He'd chosen legacy over her, duty over guts, and it felt like shit. The next morning, the headlines screamed victory. Carter Innovations locks in historic merger with Grant Enterprises. His mom called, gushing about stock prices. Nate texted, You pulled it off, man. Proud of you. The world saw a win. Ethan saw a loss. He stood at the window, coffee cold in his hand, staring at the Bay Bridge. The penthouse was quiet, too quiet, its sleek lines and marble counters mocking him. He'd built a fortress of success, and it was emptier than ever. Olivia's voice echoed in his head. You're more than your last name. He hadn't believed her then. Now, he wasn't sure he believed in anything. Days turned into weeks. He threw himself into work, meetings, press junkets, late nights crunching numbers. The merger rolled forward, a machine he couldn't stop. But every time he passed a coffee shop, every time it rained, he thought of her. He'd check her Instagram, public posts only, no personal updates. She was out there, living, while he was stuck in a glass cage. He'd fucked up. Big time. And the worst part? He didn't know how to fix it, or if he even could. 6 months after the gala, Ethan Carter's life looked like a win from the outside. The merger with Grant Enterprises had gone through, pumping Carter Innovations stock to record highs. Headlines called him a visionary, a king of tech. His mom, Margaret, threw a lavish dinner at her Pacific Heights mansion to celebrate, all champagne flutes and backslaps from board members. But inside, Ethan was a ghost. The penthouse he'd once bragged about felt like a tomb, cold, sterile, echoing with silence. Success tasted like ash, and every night he woke up reaching for someone who wasn't there. He'd tried to move on. Work kept him busy. New AI projects, investor calls, a trip to Tokyo to schmooze some execs. He dated, too, a string of women who laughed too loud and name-dropped his Forbes ranking. None of it stuck. Olivia Brooks haunted him like a song stuck on repeat. Her red dress, her voice, that look in her eyes when he'd cut her down at the gala, it played on a loop he couldn't shut off. He'd blocked her number after weeks of radio silence, telling himself it was over. But it wasn't. One Saturday morning, he found himself at Bean and Brew, a little coffee shop in Oakland she'd mentioned once. Best cold brew in the Bay Area, she'd said, grinning over a takeout cup. He didn't expect to see her. It was just a dumb, desperate grab at something familiar. He ordered a black coffee, sat by the window, and watched the street. Hipsters with tattoos, moms pushing strollers, the hum of a farmer's market nearby. Then the door chimed, and there she was. Olivia stepped in laughing, her arm linked with a guy's. She wore a cream sweater and jeans, her curls loose and wild, and she looked happy, really happy. The guy, tall, broad-shouldered, with a scruffy beard and a warm smile, leaned down to say something, and she swatted his arm, her laugh ringing out. Ethan's coffee went cold in his hands. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She hadn't seen him yet. Tucked in his corner behind a newspaper, he wasn't reading. They ordered, her usual cold brew, a latte for him, and sat 2 tables away, close enough that he could hear her voice. "Liam, you're ridiculous," she said, still chuckling. "I'm not running a 5K just to lose to you again." "You love losing to me," the guy, Liam, teased, reaching across to hold her hand. "Keeps you humble." Ethan's stomach twisted. Liam. The name hit like a punch. He watched them, the easy way they talked, the way Liam's thumb brushed her knuckles. She glowed, brighter than she ever had with him. He should have left, slipped out, spared himself the torture, but his legs wouldn't move. When she stood to grab napkins, her sweater shifted, and he saw it. A ring on her left hand, small but unmistakable, engaged. He was out the door before she turned back, coffee abandoned, heart hammering. The Oakland air hit him, crisp and unforgiving, and he walked, fast, aimless, until he hit the edge of Lake Merritt. He stood there, hands shoved in his pockets, staring at the water. She'd moved on, really moved on, and he was still here, drowning in what-ifs. That night, he stood on his penthouse balcony, the city sprawling below like a glittering lie. The wind whipped at his shirt, and he gripped the railing, knuckles white. He'd had everything, money, power, her, and he'd pissed it all away. For what? A merger? A pat on the back from his mom? He pulled out his phone, scrolled to her Instagram. Still public, still a knife in his gut. No engagement post yet, but it was coming. He could feel it. A knock at the door jolted him. He ignored it, but it came again, insistent. Sighing, he trudged inside, expecting Nate with another pep talk. Instead, Sophia Grant stood there, a vision in a black dress that hugged every curve, her blonde hair loose, a bottle of scotch in hand.
"Surprise," she said, brushing past him without an invite. "You've been dodging my calls, Jameson. Thought I'd check on you." Ethan rubbed his face, too tired to argue. "Not in the mood, Sophia." She set the bottle on the counter, pouring 2 glasses with a practiced ease. "You look like hell. Merger stress? Or is it that little activist you're still pining over?" He froze, glass halfway to his lips. "Don't." "Oh, come on," she said, stepping closer, her perfume sharp and expensive.
"Everyone knows you've been moping since the gala. It's pathetic. She's not worth it." "She's worth more than you'll ever get," he snapped, setting the glass down hard. Sophia's smile didn't falter. She moved in, her hand sliding up his chest, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You don't need her, Ethan. You need someone who fits. Someone who gets this world. Me." Her lips crashed into his, hot and demanding, tasting of scotch and lipstick. For a second he let it happen. The heat, the distraction, the pull of something easy. Her hands tugged at his shirt, her body pressing against his, and it would have been so simple to give in, to drown the pain in her. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Olivia, her teasing grin, her soft touch on that rainy night. This wasn't it. This wasn't her. He pushed Sophia back, breathing hard. "No, I can't." Her eyes flashed, anger breaking through the seduction. "What the hell, Ethan? You think she's coming back? She's done with you. I'm right here." "I don't want this," he said, stepping away. "I don't want you." Sophia laughed, cold and cutting. "You'll regret this. You think you can play the hero now? Good luck keeping that merger without me." She grabbed her bag and stormed out, the door slamming behind her. Ethan sank onto the couch, head in his hands. The scotch sat untouched, mocking him. He'd turned her down, but it didn't feel like a win. It felt like another hole in a sinking ship. The next week, the fallout hit. Sophia made good on her threat. Whispers started circulating, first in boardroom corners, then in the press. A tabloid ran a story. "Carter CEO uses charity stunt to boost image," sources say. It painted him as a manipulative prick, using Olivia's non-profit for PR points. The Grants didn't pull the merger, not yet, but their lawyers sent a terse email about reassessing terms. Shareholders freaked, stock dipped 8%, and Margaret called him to her office, her face a mask of fury. "You've humiliated us," she said, pacing behind her desk. "Sophia's father is livid. What were you thinking, rejecting her like that?" "I was thinking I'm done being your puppet," Ethan shot back. "This isn't about Sophia, it's about me." "Then act like it," she snapped. "You're a Carter. Start behaving like one or you'll lose everything." He walked out, her words ringing in his ears. Nate tried to play peacemaker over beers that night, but even he looked worried. "Dude, you're in deep shit. The board's talking about a vote. Your mom's pushing it. They might oust you." "Let them," Ethan said, staring at the bottle. "I don't care anymore." But he did. He cared too much. About Olivia, about what he'd lost, about the man he'd failed to be. A week later, her engagement post dropped. There it was, on Instagram, a knife twist he'd seen coming but couldn't dodge. Olivia beaming, Liam's arm around her, the caption simple and brutal. "Yes to forever with my best friend." Comments flooded in, a chorus of joy he couldn't join. He stood on the balcony again, the city lights blurring through a haze of regret. His phone buzzed. Nate, probably, but he let it ring. He'd hit bottom, and it hurt like hell. Olivia was gone. His company was cracking. His mom was ready to disown him. He'd chosen wrong at the gala, and now he was paying the price. But somewhere in the wreckage,
A spark flickered. He didn't have her, and he didn't deserve her, but he could still be the guy she'd believed in, the one she'd seen before he'd fucked it all up. It wasn't over. Not yet. Ethan Carter had never felt smaller than he did standing in that boardroom a year after the gala, the memory of Olivia's red dress still burning behind his eyes. It was the same room from the start of this story. Glass walls, San Francisco Bay shimmering outside, the air thick with tension. He'd just dropped the bomb. 30% of Carter Innovations' profits would fund community projects, starting with Olivia's bright futures. His mom, Margaret, had exploded. The board had reeled, and he'd walked out, leaving chaos in his wake. That was 3 months ago, and now he was all in. No turning back. The fallout had been brutal. Shareholders sued, claiming he'd tanked their value. The grants pulled strings, slashing the merger's scope, costing the company billions. Margaret cut him off. No calls, no Sunday brunches, just a curt email. You've made your bed. The tabloids feasted. Billionaire goes rogue. Carter airs charity meltdown. And the board scheduled a vote to oust him as CEO. Nate fought to delay it, but Ethan didn't care. He'd sold the penthouse, a gleaming cage he'd never loved, and moved into a modest Oakland apartment. 2 bedrooms, creaky floors, a view of a scrappy park instead of the bay. It felt right. He'd started volunteering at Bright Futures, too, not as Ethan Carter, tech titan, but as James, a quiet guy who showed up to haul boxes and sort donations. Olivia didn't know. He made damn sure of that. He'd shave off his usual stubble, wear faded jeans and a hoodie, keep his head down. He wasn't there to win her back. She had Liam, her fiancé, her forever, but to prove something to himself. He'd stack water filters, drive supplies to rural drop-offs, listen to her team talk about kids who'd never had clean taps before. It was hard, sweaty work, and it lit something in him he hadn't felt in years. The day of the community center opening in Oakland was her big win. Bright Future's crown jewel. A safe haven for underprivileged kids, funded by years of grit and a chunk of his anonymous donation. Ethan stood at the back of the crowd, hands in his pockets, watching her cut the ribbon. She wore a mustard-yellow dress, her curls loose, her smile wide enough to light the damn city. Liam stood beside her, proud and steady, clapping as she spoke. "This is for the kids who deserve a shot," Olivia said into the mic, her voice ringing out over the cheers. "For every family who's been told they don't matter. We built this together." Ethan's throat tightened. She'd done it, without him, despite him, and she was radiant. The crowd dispersed, kids running to the new basketball court, parents snapping photos. He should have left, faded into the background like always, but his feet moved before his brain caught up. He approached her as Liam stepped away to grab water, his heart pounding like a jackhammer. "Olivia," he said, voice rough. She turned, her smile dropping fast. "Ethan? What the hell are you doing here?" He held up his hands, a peace offering. "I'm not here to mess anything up. I donated to the center, quietly. No strings." Her eyes narrowed, searching his face. Liam glanced over, bristling, but stayed put. "Why?" she asked, crossing her arms. "Why now?" "Because it matters to you," he said simply. "And because I owe you more than I can ever pay back." She didn't soften, but she didn't walk away either. "The community needs this place, Ethan. Not your guilt." "It's not guilt," he said, stepping closer, voice low. "It's growth. I fucked up. At the gala, after it, all of it. You deserved better, and I was too chicken shit to give it to you. I'm not asking for anything back. I just needed you to know." Liam moved in, protective, his hand on Olivia's shoulder. "You good, Liv?" "Yeah," she said, not breaking Ethan's gaze. "Give us a minute."
Liam hesitated, then nodded, stepping back but keeping watch. Olivia studied Ethan. His worn jacket, the shadows under his eyes, the letter he pulled from his pocket and held out. "What's this?" "Something I wrote," he said. "Been carrying it for months. It's not a plea, it's the truth. Read it when you're ready, or don't. Up to you." She took it, her fingers brushing his, and he felt that old spark, faint but real. "I loved you, Olivia," he said, the words spilling out raw. "Still do. Probably always will. But you're happy now, and that's what counts. I just wanted you to see I'm trying to be the guy you thought I could be." Her breath caught, and for a second he thought she might say something soft, but her jaw tightened, and she nodded. "This doesn't fix anything, you know. The center's great, but it's not about you." "I know," he said. "It's about them." He jerked his head toward the kids laughing on the court. "And you." She looked at him, really looked, and a ghost of a smile flickered. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Ethan." "I already did," he said, voice cracking. "Just wasn't brave enough to keep it." He turned to go, but she called after him. "Ethan." He paused, glancing back. "Thanks for the donation. It's gonna help a lot of kids." It wasn't forgiveness, not fully, but it was something. A bridge, maybe, or just a door left cracked open. He nodded, gave a small wave, and walked away, the weight on his chest lifting a fraction. Liam watched him go, then pulled Olivia close, and Ethan didn't look back again. That night, alone in his apartment, he got a text. "Olivia, read your letter. Thanks for trying. Short, simple, brutal in its kindness." He stared at it, a lump in his throat, then set the phone down. She'd read it. 5 pages of messy, handwritten truth about the gala, his cowardice, how she'd changed him. It was enough. The next morning he walked into Carter Innovations for the board vote. They didn't fire him, not yet, but they slashed his power, putting Nate in charge of day-to-day ops. Margaret didn't show, her absence louder than any lecture. Ethan took it in stride, signed the papers, and left. The company would survive. He'd made sure of that. But it wasn't his soul anymore. He spent the weeks after pouring himself into bright futures, still as James, still quiet. He learned to fix pipes, taught a kid to shoot hoops, ate tacos with the team after long days. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. His bank account shrank, donations, legal fees, no more private jets, but his life grew. He found a rhythm, a purpose that didn't come with a stock ticker. One evening, walking home past Lake Merritt, the sunset painting the water gold, he stopped. The air smelled like eucalyptus and grilled street food, and for the first time in forever, he didn't feel empty. He'd lost Olivia, lost her love, her trust, her everything. But he'd gained something else, a spine, a heart, himself. Money couldn't buy what mattered. He learned that the hard way. Pride had cost him the woman who'd seen him, really seen him, and he'd never get her back. But he could live better, be better, because of her. Some loves, even the lost ones, carve you into something new. He pulled out his phone, snapped a photo of the lake, and typed a caption he'd never post. "Thanks, Liv, for everything." Then he kept walking, the city alive around him, a man remade. Hey folks, that's my story. Regret, redemption, and figuring out what really counts. Lost love sucks, but it can teach you who you're meant to be. If this hit you anywhere close to how it hit me, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell. We've got more tales coming. Drop a comment. What would you have done different in my shoes? Thanks for sticking with me to the end. Let's keep the convo going.